right, so if I want this brick texture to be on this pyramid right here, I'm gonna just go ahead and take this and maybe break some of these bricks up a little bit, like maybe give it a crack right there, make the edge uneven, you know, things like that. Also, I don't want to leave the bricks on my pyramid to be pure white. So I'm going to go ahead in here and shade these in individually, and I'm going in a horizontal direction. Okay, so the bricks on the right hand side over here are going to be just a little bit darker, and you can see I already started with some of them as well, and I'm just taking that, maybe cracking the edge. Why would I do that? Well, it's a pyramid. It's been sitting there for a while, so we want to give it some age, some weather. Doesn't look like a brand new pyramid to me, so I'm just adding that to it. So I can do that again over here. This one's kind of small, so I don't have quite as much space, but remember, you're doing the larger one like I just showed you, like on a larger piece of paper, so you can have a lot more space to fill it in. So I'm just adding some quick texture on this side, going back and forth, that way it's not pure white, and just adding like a couple marks here and there, breaking those bricks up just a little bit. I'm not going to do too much on this one. You saw the texture on the other one, just to kind of give it a feel of something's going on other than it's brand new. So this one's maybe not quite as old as the other one. All right, so there we have it. Now with this, I don't want to give it the same texture, so we're going to try something a little bit different. I think with this one, what I'm going to do is just start, well, first off, I'm going to do the same thing again, where I shade this side in, so making this side darker, and you'll notice I'm using my pencil from much further away. I'm trying to give it kind of a loose feel right there, and I'm going to shade the front as well, kind of like a soft feel. If you're not ready to do this from very far away because it takes a lot of control, just hold your pencil up closer, not a big deal. Okay, so I'm going to go back in here and I'm going to do kind of the shaggy look on here. Actually, I should be starting from the bottom because we want to build that shaggy hair on top of what we already have. So I'm going to just have some of the hair pieces kind of flying wherever, and I'm going to just build that up over the whole pyramid so it looks like it's all like just a shaggy pyramid here. Okay, so it's a shaggy pyramid, and we're going to do that the same thing in the front. We're going to make some shag marks. Some of them are going to be a little bit longer than the pyramid itself. That's fine. And I'm just going to build the hair right on top of it. So we want to start at the bottom because hair lays on top of itself, right? So if we start at the top like I went to on the other one, it's not that big of a deal. It's just not going to look as natural. See, now if we stop there, our pyramid has a beard. So you could technically kind of stop there, but I'm going to take this all the way to the top. I don't feel like leaving this guy with a beard. We're going to just make his whole face shaggy. Give him some eyebrows there. The whole thing is going to be shaggy. Don't forget those wild hairs, just kind of like wherever. Okay, so now we have my little pyramid all shaggy. All right, and we're going to do a similar thing with this cylinder, and I'm going to use kind of like a curly hair method. Again, we're going to just shade at the bottom, and this is that dark to light thing. So I'm going to start off really dark, and then I'm going to lighten up as I go up. And you'll see we're going to lose some of the face in this a little bit, but we're going to get that back at the end just like we did before. Now you can see that this is really dark on the top because the light's hitting it. It's not going to be so dark there and on this left hand side, so I'm going to loosen those up just a little bit. Now here's the trick. On the inside of this, if we want to make it look like it's open, I'm going to go back and forth and go dark to light, starting from the top down instead of from the bottom. So I'm doing the opposite of what I did for the rest of it. So this one is dark at the bottom, this one's dark at the top. And then if I have any extra marks, I just clean them up. And I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to just put some little circles over the top of this. And we're going to lighten them up as we go up. And this is going to give us kind of like a curly, softer texture as we go up. And I'm all just following how light it was for the whole thing. Okay, so again, we lost some of this, so I'm going to go ahead and put that in a little bit darker, the whole face. That way we get that back. Okay. All right, so now we have 3 more. We're getting there. I know this is taking a minute, but we're getting there. All right, so you can see for that one, I actually did the sphere with the fuzz. And so because we're building a sphere, we want the darker to go around in a curve. So if you do decide to make your sphere fuzzy like this, go ahead and make the shading around the edges in kind of like that backward C shape. If it was going from the other direction where your light was over here instead, then you would put the darker on the other side. That one kind of ended up looking like a Dr. Seuss character. I like him. So we're going to go ahead and do some things a little bit different here than what you've already seen. So with this one, again, we're going to go ahead and do my shading. So again, I want it darker on the side, but instead of coming out and just staying like this, I see this a lot where people just go sideways like this. You don't want that because that's not going to look right. We need to lighten this area on the left-hand side because the light's hitting it, remember? And then we're going to come out and we're going to shade more in a wedge shape. So we want to shade like in a fan. So if I have a cylinder, right, we're not shading straight up and down. No, you're not doing that. You're shading straight up and down in the middle maybe, but everything goes to that point, and so it's darker on the edge and then lighter as we come forward, and then lightest at the other end. Please don't draw those lines. That was just for reference. Okay, so again, I'm just shading in kind of that fan shape where it's darkest on the right hand side and then it's lighter. And this time it's a little bit harder than just doing a regular cylinder because you have to avoid the eyes right there. But I mean, not a cylinder, this is a cone. But you get the idea. Okay, so we're set with that. All right, now we have this little organic. Again, the light's coming from the left-hand side, so that means our right-hand side, right hand, right here, is going to be most shaded. Again, I don't want to leave this whole thing white, so I'm going to go in here and shade the whole thing in, except for the eyes. Don't shade the eyes in. And now here's the key. If it's furthest away from the light source, it's going to have a shadow, right? So you might have a little shadow right here because it's kind of leaning against this cone. You're going to have different things maybe than I do. That's okay. Just kind of try to figure it out. But here's the thing. I didn't leave much in the way of highlight. That's the lightest area where the light hits. I need to go back in there and bring some of that back in where it's a little bit lighter. Maybe right there on the top of its head. And again, I lost some here. I'm just going to go ahead and bring that back in. And I end up with a different face now, and that's okay. All right, so now, last but not least, our sphere. All right, so for the sphere, I am going to make little kind of pokery. I did that on my other form, but really I need to do it mostly just on the bottom here. Oh, and what did I say? For everything else, you should do your shading first, and then I'm not paying attention to that. I need to go back in here and shade first. So again, I'm going around the left-hand side, sorry, the right hand, the other left. I'm going around the right-hand side here, shading, shading, shading. That's the darkest area in a backwards C. So making sure it's coming around, around. And getting lighter and lighter as I approach this area right here. So darker, darker, darker towards the side, darker, darker. And then we can go ahead and let our spikes show. I'm not going to do a bunch of them, just like the shadow underneath. Little spiky guy here. I don't think his spikes are too sharp. Some of them are kind of a little bit funky, and that's okay. He doesn't need a bunch of like sharp spikes. He's just a little spiky guy. Little porcupiney. Well, not porcupiney. Porcupinies have longer spikes, right? So anyway, here we go. There he is. Just a couple spikes here and there. All right. So just like a different texture. A little bit sharper texture. All right, and I didn't really give much of a texture here, but that smoothness is kind of a texture as well. So it's not like an extreme texture, but it still ends up. So we're gonna go ahead and leave that one kind of like that smooth look to it. All right, next video and last video is going to be our shading for the cast shadows.